So today I come to you with receipts that show that members of the Trump administration are actively preparing for life after Trump, when their words and actions may catch up to them and they may be held accountable for things they say under oath, for example. And I'm also going to share with you why Project 2025's plan to replace career civilian experts at the Department of Justice and the federal government, all layers, with Trump loyalist sycophants who are loyal to Donald Trump but may not necessarily be the most qualified for the jobs, why that's backfiring majorly right now. And it has been actually since January 2020. I'm JJ Legal. I'm in the dockets and I follow all the lawsuits filed against the Trump administration and those the Trump administration filed against others. And I take you beyond the headlines. A lot of people don't watch beyond the headlines because it's shock and awe. It's so much. You get one headline after the next, and rarely do you go back to see, oh, what happened in that case? And so I go back in the case, and that's why I know that Trump administration loses like 90% of the time. They lose the majority of their preliminary injunctions and temporary restraining orders requests early on, especially, less nowadays. And they are failing in the court cases, and partially because, as I say, a lot of times what the Trump administration and their goons and sycophants say in social media and on Fox News directly conflict with what's going on in the courts, and that's one of the reasons why they lose. So in this update, I'm also going to use this time to explain why they're like getting ready for post-Trump. Trump's, by the way, has said that when he leaves, it's the first time he mentioned leaving. He said, when I'm leaving, I'm no longer here. They're not going to have me to protect them. So he's anticipating a time when they're not going to be there, because these people saying that Trump doesn't plan to leave and these people don't think he's ever leaving. He knows. He said that. And I noticed what they're doing in the court to protect themselves. They're getting ready. They're doing specific things. I'm going to tell you about what the specific things they're doing later on in this video. But it's couched with a couple of updates from two judges in two courts in Chicago. So first, a little bit of background. Quick background. You probably know that Donald Trump had previously sent federal troops or federalized state troops in California and D.C., claiming in D.C. that he's helping solve insurgents' crime, which doesn't exist, or using the federal troops because of out-of-control protesters, which was also a lie. He has to use the emergency power that the presidents have under the Constitution to do a lot of the things he wants to do without the normally would require Congress's input. So he lies. But why does he lie? Why the most recent sending troops to Portland and Chicago? Would you believe it's because of Fox News and these conservative bloggers that you might have seen in a meeting Donald Trump had with the conservative podcasters? They're sending him footage and send him live. They're helping him. Essentially, what I think happens is you have that the person in the open carry state of Texas shot at the ICE facility. And because of what happened in Texas, they're sending ICE troops to Chicago and Portland, which don't have open carrier, don't have that problem. Make it make sense. Now, you probably know that Donald Trump doesn't necessarily read or don't look at briefings. He watches Fox News all day. And so what I think is President Stephen Miller puts Donald Trump in front of a TV, and Fox News is showing footage from the 2020 George Floyd movement and from other countries and saying, this is what's going on in Portland, this is what's going on in Chicago, lying to them. And you know why they're showing 2020? And this is why I tell the no kings and the hands-off protesters why black and brown people are sitting aside. Why do you think Fox News is showing footage of the 2020 George Floyd movement? To try to convince their audiences, to convince Donald Trump, to convince these people to scare them. They're scared of the black bodies. They're not showing them the frogs and the white middle-aged people and the hippies. No, they're reaching back to show them something, that racism. That's usually the answer, racism. And so that's why we stay home, because it doesn't sell the story. And that's what's happening here. So, but here's the thing, it doesn't work in courts. And so what Donald Trump is seeing on TV, he even said once, like, I saw it on TV. Are you trying to tell me that what's happening really on the ground is different when I'm still on TV? The president said that when challenged. Look it up. If I have some time, I'm not sure if I'm going to edit this. I'll put it here in the clip, or I'll show it to you later. He said that. He's just watching TV. So he is executing policy based on what Fox News and these conservative MAGA podcasters are telling him. That's a problem. but the lies are catching up to them. At one point, I think Tricia McLaughlin, who is the propagandist, Deputy Homeland Security, who I can't stand, went on TV saying, well, on the first day in Chicago, we arrested 11 people. Y'all, if you saw my video recently about the protester or the journalist or the person who filmed ICE agents in DC who got off, it's the same situation where the ICE agents come in, they attack and they assault people, and in the scuffle, they try to accuse the person who they attacked for attacking them. And then it's 11 of the people. Out of the 11 people they arrested, about 5 of them got charged, and of the 5 that got charged, only 1 stuck. They also falsely claimed in the court dockets that Donald Trump was sending the ICE troops to protect the court buildings or the immigration courts. And the judge in that case said, the chief judge has no, did you consult with him and say that you're sending troops? Because he didn't ask for troops and he didn't even know you were sending troops. Then they had to walk that back. See a pattern here? They just make up things. They don't tell the truth and they get called out on it. And part of the reason is because who's left the Department of Justice? They run out all the career people. The folks either left or they fired them. Have you seen the cases when people refuse to do his bidding to prosecute cases? It was the Saturday Night Massacre or Friday Night Massacre in DC. And a bunch of folks left because Ed Martin wanted them to do something that didn't make sense. The folks they asked to prosecute Letitia James Comey, and even recently, the folks involved in the Letitia James case they're just quitting. They're firing them because they're just like, we don't want this. So who's left? This is what happens when you leave just loyalists, sycophants. You have people who are not necessarily skilled. They're making so many mistakes. They're leaving. They're like typo mistakes. What's her name? Lindsay Halligan, when she tried, the woman who was able to bring an indictment falsely against Letitia James. Her indictment, her documents are full of mess. It's such a mess. She had to go find some AUSAs from the South somewhere to do the case. So that's what we have. And that's what happens when you replace career folks with sycophants who are loyal but aren't necessarily competent. And they lie. And because they're lying, that's why Judge Karine Immergalt in Portland initially blocked the Trump administration from sending troops, essentially saying it's devoid in facts. Like you're saying there's this insurrection, and I'm not seeing it. And when Trump administration appealed it to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals are saying, political opposition isn't armed rebellion. You haven't shown us that there's a concerted effort to try to overthrow the government. That rebellion, that's what's needed. These are just people protesting. And so the Court of Appeals in the Ninth Circuit hasn't ruled yet as to what it looks like. They're probably going to affirm Judge Ingersoll's decision to block the federalization of troops in Portland based on lack of evidence. And then you have Judge Ellis in Chicago, similarly, who said, you haven't proven that. Oh, no, that's. You have Judge Perry in Chicago saying that on the declarations, I can't trust what you're saying. You're saying that there's these people fighting and all these folks targeting the ICE agent. She says it just doesn't, there's no credibility here. Because when she looks at the declaration, she compared it with facts, it's just not matching up. And so the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeal affirmed her decision. Now, she didn't send the troops back. She let the already federalized troops stay, but they have to stay on base. They can't go in the city. And the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed that decision. Donald Trump has appealed the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. It was 2 Republican appointed judges, one appointed by George W. Bush, one appointed by Trump, and one appointed by Barack Obama or Biden, I think. The 3-panel affirmed Judge Perry's decision to say, well, I'm not going to block the already federalized troops, but they can't go in the city, and they haven't gone in the city. So they're there, but they're not in the city. And they're giving deference and that's what the Trump administration's argued at the Supreme Court and the appeals, that you have to give deference to the government. But in each case, they say, well, there's other least intrusive means. If you're concerned about the federal buildings or the ICE facilities, why have you used local law enforcement? Before you can bring in troops to do law enforcement activities, it has to rise to a certain level, and it's not there yet. You haven't exhausted the other options here, and we're just not seeing it. We're not seeing the rebellion. We're not seeing the need. We don't believe what you're saying. It's just not credible. And so, in another case, Judge Sarah Ellis the journalists. So on behalf of journalists on First Amendment and the protesters went to Sarah Ellis to say that they pepper spraying us. She stopped them. She issued a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction and saying that you have to wear body armor, one, and two, you can't be using pepper spray unless you have a reasonable reason that, there's an assault and there's imminent danger to you. You can't just be dispersed. You can't just have people protesting. You just start pepper spraying protesters. They have the First Amendment right to protest. If there's no reason. And if you're going to use chemical, you have to give notice, right? So that was her order. Next thing you know, she's sitting home probably eating her dinner. She looks up on the news and she sees that a chase with some ICE officers. And where's the body camera? And she sees protesters, and then she sees, where's tear gas here? What's going on? Where's it going on? She brings it back in for emergency hearing and says, you guys are not following my order. They lie and say, well, the body camera usage, it's kind of hard logistically. And she said, no, it's not. It's not really hard logistically. What's the issue here? They're hemming and hawing. So she says, you know what? I need to see Russell Holt, who's the department, the border agent person in charge of everything, on Monday. You know how they replied? They said that he's no longer doing that in Chicago. He's no longer in that position. He's gone. Why are they doing that? Why? Because, as I said before, it's under oath. I've been watching these cases. While Pam Bonnie's named as a defendant in a lot of cases, and sometimes she enters an appearance, she rarely gives declarations. They throw low-level people to do the declarations. The low-level people are lying like crazy. I'm seeing all the lies. It's easy. They're lying. And they're going to be held accountable for their lies. And they can be perjured. Next Democrat administration, the next Democrat-held or controlled Congress can bring these people up and they want to charge them for perjury. So they're CYA because they know there's a life after this. They're throwing Greg Bonavino in here, but here's the thing with Greg. He's messed up a lot. And then even Holt, they've messed up a lot. They've made declarations that don't look good. One of the Greg Bonavino, at one point during one of the cases, the plaintiff's lawyer was cross-examining him and trying to impeach his credibility and mention the fact that he had a discipline proceeding. And he, called immigrants all sorts of really horrible names. And he said, I'm not even going to say them on here. And he said, no, I wasn't calling all immigrants that. I was just that one. That one is a real criminal. That I was just referring to him. To which the plaintiff's lawyer said, you signed this document that signed off and said, is that your signature right there? And you admitted that you would call all immigrants that. And he said, oh, okay, yeah. So you have people who are not credible, who've used really horrible phraseology to refer to immigrants and who are running these things. They're goons, they're goombas. And then there's officials that are supposed to be higher level, but because that they're showing their bias against their racism, their xenophobia, clearly, and that's undermining their case. So Greg Bonavino is supposed to be there instead of Russell Holt. They move them around. They do that a lot. I've been watching these dockets since January. And especially with Elon early on, they kept changing his name. They kept changing his description. They bob and weave. At one point in the Alien Enemies Act case, Jim Boasberg had to ask the Trump administration, stop sending me declarations. When I ask for an update and you're telling me that the reason why you can't update me is because of privilege and you're claiming privilege, you're sending me low-level people to give me the updates. Can you send me someone with a high level, someone who's actually participating in the meeting, someone who is actually knows about this privilege? He has asked for people who are more senior to put their name. They don't want to put their name on the line. And when I saw Marco Rubio did put his name on the line, it was very vague. So essentially, there's plausible deniability. They are anticipating, they know there's a life after Donald Trump. And they are CYAing. And so that's the full circle moment. And the fact that they're CYAing should tell those of you who are really scared of this administration, I want to gaslight you, you should be. They're doing a lot of horrible things. They're causing a lot of damage. They're tearing up families. They're making people lose their jobs. The defunding is messing up cancer research. They're deporting people and putting them in bad position. They're doing horrible things to people. I do not doubt that. They're very scary. What they're doing is scary to people. So I'm not denying that. I don't want to gaslight you. However, I've been trying to impart on people that they do abide by court decisions. The judicial system is working. The grand juries, remember I mentioned there was 11 people they arrested, 5 were charged, only 1 stuck, is because the grand juries are rejecting the baseless attempts to prosecute protesters. They're coming into these places, they're trying to agitate the protesters, and then with their agitation create a reason to bring more federal troops or to justify the troops. They have no justifications for going into these cities at all. And the justification Donald Trump is using is based on him watching Fox News and snippets of, like, you see Pam Bondi going everywhere with her camera, taking pictures. They're essentially what they're doing is documenting for their future trial. It's like you have lots of video footage. Thank you for the behind the scenes video footage. When we get this, we're going to prove everything that we're saying about you, about your crimes against humanity, violation of people's human rights, constitutional rights, and just due process rights. And you're documenting it for us because you want to be a reality TV show. Like, this is we have a reality TV show star who put a bunch of crazy, I always call them psychopathic, sociopaths, sadistic people who love inflicting pain on other people, call themselves Christian, wear their crosses big and broad, but while they're actually inflicting actual pain on human beings, children, like picking up kids out of their sleep in the middle of the night to try to deport them and dump them to another country, that type of depravity, like tackling like moms at the pickup line at their school, and tackling like food delivery drivers, people who are making honest livings, folks who built businesses, who've been in this country for years and years and years. Their only crime, they don't have a crime. Their only offense, a civil offense, because immigration is a civil infraction, is minor offenses, using minor infractions from years and years and years to have a basis for detaining like superintendents. Crazy stuff. Like, they told all those folks we're going after the horrible criminals, and they don't have it. And so that's why they're going after. And people, they didn't sign up for this. A lot of folks like, this is not what I voted for. Yeah, there are a few depraved incels. They have no life, and they're empty, and their lives are failures, and they feel like, since my life's a failure, I need to see other people punished. Yeah, those people, that's what they voted for. But most people aren't. That's 22% of the population, I always say, is MAGA. We're being ruled by the tyranny of the minority. Donald Trump is the president for them, because he's not a president for all of us. He's just going around inflicting pain and pulling back programs that he calls Democrat programs, which is like programs that he, for some reason, I don't understand why he doesn't know the majority of people on welfare are in red states. Like, the folks who benefit and use the ACA mainly are in red states. Like, when you take away health care, subsidized health care, you're impacting Republicans who are, when you say these Democrat programs, there was a meme that said that MAGA moms are waking up, finding out for the first time that they're actually Democrats. Because now the fact that Donald Trump is attacking programs that everyone used, people are realizing to the extent to which Democrats really are the party that's going to care about the workers, your food, your energy, care about, fair wages, care about, you have an opportunity, care about just, health and safety. That's the part. The Republicans, they do nothing. All they do is help their rich friends get tax cuts and tell you, poor Republicans, that it's these other people's reason why your life sucks, while they pick your pockets. Yeah, anyway, so that was a long video, but I hope that helps you just understand to which extent that it's a Project 2025 decision to, or belief that we replaced with loyalists, that the country's going to still run. But these loyalists, that was stupid, flawed anyway. And we're seeing the mistakes because they're making mistakes. They're falling apart. They're not coordinated. Like, for Donald Trump looking at Fox News and making that a reason to go in, that's not coordination. That's just like sloppy. And then they just say whatever. They're a mess. They're a hot mess. And that's why. And so, yeah, so they're preparing to leave. They know they're going to leave. They know. If anything, John Bolton's being indicted should tell you that about the loyalty. There's no loyalty. Louis, what's this other guy? Lewandowski? No, what's his name? Anthony Scaramucci. Like, folks, when they leave, Donald Trump comes after them. He has no loyalty. A lot of folks who used to work for him, they don't have immunity. His former chief of staff, I always say this, is currently being prosecuted in Georgia now. So a lot of folks have lost their law license. They've lost their homes. They've gone to jail. A lot of Donald Trump's, like, the man does not care. He just, throws all you guys underneath the bus. He's already thrown all on the bus already. And if you work for him, the ICE agents, they say it's, you're on your own. So anyway, that's it. JJ Legal, each one teach one. I hope this video is helpful for you. because it was helpful for me researching it. And I'm going to put a list down of the various court reporters and other journalists and other independent journalists that are covering these stories, who I rely on, who I watch every single day, who are keeping up with this. And since you're not keeping up with them, I'm keeping